Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot right here, and I am doing this video to ask one question, alright? I know not everybody attends my streams, and obviously we've had a lot of discussions about this on stream, but to the wider audience of YouTube, if you have played Helldivers in the past, and you are no longer playing Helldivers right now, why have you stopped playing Helldivers? That's the question I want to ask everybody. Meridia Black Hole will serve as our background noise during this video. Alright, my raid QR code will be there for those that want to join us on Raid Shadow Legends. You can help me out just by getting a level 25. But today's focus is on one thing. Why have players stopped playing Helldivers? I want to know. If you have stopped playing Helldivers, let me know your reasons. There are some reasons we've already discussed on stream, and I'll present them at the end of this video. But first, let's start with a bit of facts, okay? We need to know the history of Helldivers before we can actually understand the current situation. So how do we go from basically 458,000 players to what we have now? Well, it's a pretty tough history, but you know, I'll try to summarize it and also explain what happened. So Helldivers started off as the hit game of the year. 458,000 players in February, 437,000 players at the start of March. March was when the cutting edge Warbond was released, which was really good. But it was also the month where, number one, there were major nerfs to the railgun and the breaker, alright, which caused players to leave, and the arc thrower broke toward the end of March, causing more issues. Alright, so while February and March were some of the hottest times of Helldivers, where every day was an absolute joy to stream and play Helldivers, it was so good, you know? By the end of March, we'd actually lost. Going from 437,000 players, we had gone to 263,000 players. That's a pretty major drop, if you think about it. How did we lose about 170,000 players? Well, about 100,000 of those, I would say, natural causes, okay? Every hit game will have people that get on the hype train. This game is not for them, they leave, all right? This is very natural, very normal. Also, some people will like speed run a game, unlock everything, get bored, you know, they'll play it 20 hours a day, and then they'll go no life the next game. You know, there are people that live like that. You know, I can't imagine it, but there are people that live like that, and they're not even content creators. They're just people that live like that, which is kind of crazy, but you know, hey, to each their own, right? So that is pretty natural, but about 70,000, I would say, left because they had seen the start of Alexus, Bringer of Balance, Lord of No Fun Allowed. The breaker and the railgun were the cause of some minor toxicity, but I say very minor toxicity, okay? Because it never once happened with us. But there were some people who went around saying, if you don't bring the breaker, if you don't bring the railgun, we're gonna kick you from the team. Okay, fair enough. But the Bringer of Balance took that personally, and he said no fun allowed. So these two weapons had the highest pick rate, and they were completely eliminated from the pool. The arc thrower then came to the forefront as one of the best options in the game. Because guess what? It was actually useful with a 50-meter range and ability to chain to targets. It could actually, and the fact that it also ignored armor, it could literally kill anything in the game. So the arc thrower came to prominence, especially during bug orders. It was in fact so good that with the cutting edge Warbond, everyone was running around with arc thrower armor, with shooting arcs at each other. And basically it was one of the most fun times in Helldivers because you could electrocute everything and have a really great time. I mean, 50-meter range on the arc thrower is pretty damn badass, right? Wrong. Because immediately after that, no fun allowed struck again. Alexus, great bringer of balance, said no fun allowed. So, we'd already lost all these players in March, and then guess what happened? There was a major patch that restored the functionality of the arc thrower on the 7th of April. Okay, and this is where a lot of people came to check out, well, I wouldn't say it was on the 7th of April, it was actually somewhere around here. A lot of people came on that weekend to check things out, and they realized that there were major nerfs in the patch. At the time, I remember a lot of people, a lot of haters coming up to me and saying, Asian Robot, there were more buffs in the patch than nerfs. You're a freaking nerd. You know, why are you so doom and gloom? Why are you so toxic? People were already saying that about me back then. Not that I give a shit, because quite frankly, that doesn't really affect or bother me. But what I do have to say is that they were hiding themselves, you know, they were sort of like hiding their eyes from the truth. Because I had already said the Slugger nerf was major and the Arc Thrower nerf was even more major. These were two of the weapons with some of the highest pick rates. The Slugger was no longer able to open crates, it was able to do that beforehand. It could stagger almost any enemy in the game, making it one of the best weapon choices, and it was available in the free Warbond. Alexus didn't like that. The arc thrower as well was such a great weapon choice because it was early accessible, everybody could use it, it was peak fun. Both got nerfed. The slugger lost a lot of its damage, it lost its stagger, it was no longer able to open crates, it was basically made useless. The Punisher got a buff, but why would you use the Punisher when the slugger exists? You needed the medium armor penetration. It was a major source of damage, especially against the automatons. And they said it's because the slugger was acting like the best sniper in the game. Why couldn't it be? Why nerf fun? Because players were doing skill shots with the slugger and picking off automaton heads. This is not wrong. This is skillful play. Okay? And the arc thrower as well took a lot of skill to learn the fast charging method where you could sort of half charge it and still fire. It took a lot of skill to practice and get the timing perfect and be able to do that every single time. You know, it took effort. And all these techniques that players learned became useless overnight because Alexus snapped his fingers and said, no. Okay. So then, what happened? Immediately after this weekend, where the patch did not occur on a weekend, I believe it was on a Tuesday-ish, player numbers soared as players started to try out the patch, and everyone cursed me for, you know, talking about the truth. But then what happened on Monday? Boom! Oh no, player count right back down. Sunday was the peak, everybody took the weekend to try the new patch, everybody hated it. And then by the next Sunday, 249, player numbers climbing, down. And then players left again. You know, this weekend, a lot of players decided not to play anymore, going into the next week. Even after Democratic Detonation released on 11th April, I believe it was 11th April, could be around there. I'm sorry if I get the date wrong, but it was during April that Democratic Detonation released. Unfortunately, you know, as much as we want to believe that there were other causes, Democratic Detonation came out, the Eruptor was fun, but it wasn't enough to pull in the players, and because of the slugger nerfs and many of the other nerfs, players already felt that fun was not allowed. And then coming into the PSN fiasco was around here, it led to severe player drop-off, the review bombing. The whole of the end of April was a major mess. Not only due to the nerfs, the lackluster Democratic Detonation Warbond, but also the PSN fiasco that led to, well, shenanigans. So by the time of May 1st, Helldivers player count on Steam had dropped to about 120,000. Compare that with the start of April, where we had 229,000. At the start of May, we had lost yet another about 100,000 players. Again, I would say that roughly half would be due to natural causes by this time. This is a lot of people on social media were telling me this is natural player drop-off. This is natural player drop-off. I don't really think so. Because if you look at it in perspective, you realize that it was never a natural player drop-off. It was the simple fact that fun was not allowed, players were not having a good time, and things were not getting rectified. Arrowhead still hadn't pulled its head out of its posterior. And this was no good. So, May came around. The countries were still banned. PSN stuff had been walked back. People celebrated a bit of a victory, but realistically speaking, there was no victory to be had. And then, Polar Patriots was advertised and teased for the 11th of May. Polar Patriots came, and interest immediately dipped after. These Warbonds did not excite anyone, and in fact, because of how bad Polar Patriots was, nobody really felt like pitching in and buying it. So player count continued to dwindle, especially because they took a long time to cook the big patch for June. By the time of, let's zoom in now, by the time of June, which is this month where I've been talking endlessly about the problems of Helldivers, and I was already airing my concerns constantly. By the time of June, before the big so-called patch dropped, and there was a little bit of hype before then, by the time of June, we were seeing absolute lows, alright, of 49,000. The Helldivers player count in between May and June had once again dropped significantly. If we look at May 1st, that's 120,000. If we look at June 1st, alright, which is around here, that's 61,000. Again, the player base halved. We lost another 60,000 divers. You know, just gone in a snap like that. I would say maybe 30,000 at this point just gave up and, you know what, natural causes, fine. but 30,000 were also lost due to nerfs. A lot of these players could have been recovered or would have stayed if their favorite stuff wasn't constantly being nerfed or shelved or being, sent into oblivion just because of the whims of one person. And, as much as Alexus will like to say, it's fun being villain of the month and blah, 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 own up to your mistakes, bro. Own up to your mistakes and apologize. Come out, bow your head, learn from Japanese companies. Because if you do that, people will respect you. But instead, they were arrogant. Their Discord moderators were horrible. The CMs didn't really seem to communicate very well with the people. It was a public relations fiasco. PR fiasco, okay, fine. But people were still waiting. People were still waiting to give Arrowhead a chance because guess what? When the major patch dropped, the peak was 49,000 just the day before. But when the major patch dropped, okay, 91,000 was the peak. That means that 45,000 players came right back to test that patch. However, by the very next day, already we saw 10,000 had left. And then, it was going into the weekend, which should have been the time when more people would check out the patch. But in fact, instead of that, it was the opposite situation. Why? Because Spear was broken, the patch released with so many bugs. So going into Sunday and even into Monday night, which would have been like, oops, hey, major order completed. I randomly got some medals. Sorry, that's the sound that you heard. I think it's for the previous major order. But yes, going into Monday, which would Monday for this chart would have been like Sunday night-ish. This is the last final peak for NA. 78,000 was recorded and then it all fell off. And then going into the following week and into the next Sunday, oh my god. Look at the difference between this Sunday night. If we look at Monday 4 a.m., 58,000. We look here, 78,000. We lost 20,000 players in a week because they realized that the patch just wasn't it. So in just a single week, we had already dropped another 20,000 players. This is my concern. This is because Arrowhead has released a very conservative patch. Their patch was not as good as many people wanted it to be. And quite frankly, that just led to people being pissed off. People just said, we can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. There are other games coming out. Elden Ring is coming out. There's this other game releasing. There's that other game releasing. I'm done. I'm done. And they put it down. And the problem is that when people put down the game, they don't all come back. Look, even the major patch, which was teased and hyped so much, brought the player count only another 40,000. But we know that there are hundreds of thousands of Helldivers. So many have just given up on the game and are not willing to come back. They may come around to a stream to check out if things have changed. They may tune into the content creators they used to watch or have favored, but they're not really interested in watching, and the very next day they're gone. On the patch day, I had 200 viewers. The very next day after that, it was close to 100. And it all fell off straight after because there was nothing much. There really was nothing much. Players came, saw the streams, they said nope. And that's only counted, I'm just talking about my small numbers, but what about the bigger, even more major streamers who have all completely stopped streaming the game? They're just not interested. And when they put it down, their fans are going to put it down. Content creators matter, despite what social media would have you think. So the player count has dropped to this extent, and now we're in a situation where, are we even sure that this game can recover? This is why I want to take the time to ask you guys your opinion. What is your opinion on all this? What do you think is happening here, and do you think this game has a chance of revival? I'm going to go through some reasons for why players believe that this game is done for, okay? Reason number one, we've already discussed this during that point, but the nerfs made players leave. The nerfs were no fun. Every single time there was a weapon that was picked more than others, rather than bringing other weapons up, they brought that one weapon down, which, although it is less work for the developers, is never good for the players because the players don't like that. Players don't want their fun taken away, and Arrowhead has to learn this lesson very quickly. A lot of these nerfs have not been reversed. I tell you, revert everything back to day one. You won't even recover another 40,000 players at this point, but hey, you might recover 20, 30,000 who might love to see the weapons as they were, and then maybe start with that as your base and then build up. That would be my recommendation. You already had it before. Why can't you just start reversing all the changes? Second reason, war bonds are simply not interesting. War bonds are not garnering any player interest because the war bonds are not fun. Although these war bonds are, really cool concepts, the Polar Patriots was a cold war bond without a single weapon that was distinct in its own way. It was just another AR variant, all right, that we got, and there was nothing in there, and just the Pummeler, another Defender variant. There was nothing in there that was cold based. The cold armors didn't help you on ice planets. Like, you weren't giving anybody a proper theme. You weren't giving anybody any sort of theme to latch onto. Even the Viper Commandos had a theme, and in that one, oh my god, they released one weapon and it was just another Liberator. The Warbonds have failed to garner player interest. No matter how much people will shake themselves with the copium and say, this Warbond was so cool, the knife is so cool, I love to throw the knife. The fact of the matter is, they're not interesting people. People are just not interested. That has been a big low. And the last reason, which we often discussed on stream, and which has been a recent gripe because everyone at Arrowhead went for vacation after the big patch, the major orders have been extremely boring. We've had 6-day, 7-day orders, all fight 5 planets of bugs, fight 5 planets of automatons, hold these planets, you know, while we are on vacation. Like, I respect that they need time off, but realistically speaking, that's the equivalent of a teacher just putting up self-study on the whiteboard and saying, here, you guys self-study, we're gonna go on vacation, and when we come back, maybe we'll teach you something. There is no hype anymore, people. And that is why, in our, like, based on the discussions we've had on stream, these are our top 3 reasons that players have left. The nerfs sucked. The Warbonds are no longer interesting because they're literally just another bunch of variants. It's no unique weapon that's going to change up your playstyle completely. No. Peak Physique was good, but even that was not enough to bring players back. I mean, recently we had a mini patch that fixed Peak Physique and made it what it was supposed to be. Like, I thought that would bring some players back, but nope. Player count dropped further. And this is the Spear being fixed. You know, so many playstyles just opened up and you could have a bit of fun going Rambo, but that wasn't enough for players. And the major orders, my god, I get that you need vacation, but you need a proper DM for a game like this, because if you're gonna try and sell us a galactic war, then it's gotta be a galactic war with a proper story, not self-study the entire time. We need to feel like we're making progress, we're making headway. It's the same planets over and over. The Terminids just take over this sector, Terminids take over that sector. We haven't beaten a faction since the start of the game, and there needs to be constant push and pull. We beat a faction at the start of the game, and then they came back a day later. That's not fun. We were supposed to get vacation time to conquer some Terminids, you know, push them back. Come on. Anyway, I've said enough. I want to hear your thoughts. This is what we've talked about. This is what we've discussed. What are your thoughts? If you are a player that has left this game, if you are a player that no longer plays Helldivers, if you have some reason for leaving the game, let us know in the comments. I want to hear from you. Why have you left Helldivers behind, and what will bring you back? I want suggestions, because I'm going to send this video straight to Arrowhead depends on how many views we get and what kind of comments we get, but I want to hear from you. Why have you left the game? Why have you stopped playing Helldivers? Okay, you tell me, and hopefully we can let Arrowhead know and they can maybe understand our concerns a bit better. All right? Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you guys would like to play Raid and help out this channel, feel free to download it via my QR code. All right, I'd be very grateful if you do and get to level 25. All right, thank you very much for joining me today. All right, thank you very much for listening to this video, and look forward to the release of the first Descendant, which is coming soon, where I'm an official Nexon creator, and I'll be taking you through the game, making tons of guides and tutorials, and showing you how you can get everything for free. All right? See you soon. The game is free to play. If you don't know what game it is, ask in the comments. I'll give you a link straight away. Bye-bye!